Hey everybody, welcome tonight. Katie Kimball here from Kids Cook Real Food. I am thrilled that you are here, and we'll just take a few minutes before the event here to kind of go through some business and get some stuff set up here. The chat is open. It always gets rocking and rolling, especially in the evenings. I think parents aren't juggling so many kids in the evenings. So tell us where you're from. Tell us how many kids you have. I love to hear their ages. That helps me know where to spend a little more time if we've got a lot of preschoolers, a lot of teenage moms, stuff like that. And the internationality of these things always thrills me. So definitely, tell me where you're from and introduce yourself. I am from Michigan myself, and I have 4 kids. And then we'll go through, gotta do some little, let's see, do I have the poll on? There is a poll that you can take. What holds you back the most from inviting your kids in the kitchen? Of course, that's what we are here talking about today, is how to get your kids in the kitchen, why you should do it, really practical steps, and then how to motivate them to actually want to come in with you if you happen to be in the 85% of people whose kids maybe don't like to be in the kitchen. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I see some moms and dads coming in already. Let us know in the chat where you're from, how many kids you have, what ages they are. That really helps me spend time in the right place. And then let me just real quick, we've got a little bit of business to take care of here. If I can get to the right screen. There's always little technical things here. Let's see. Yep, that's the one I wanted. So I just want to let everybody know that my team member, Sonia, is in the chat. So if you have questions, when they come to your mind, just ask them. Sonia's job is to grab all those questions and put them in a special place where I can find them at the end for the Q&A. So I'll spend as much time as you all need today here answering your questions, but I might not get them right when you ask them, but just don't feel ignored. Sonia's there, she's taking care of it. Sonia will also help you if you have any technical difficulties or if you miss an answer on the worksheet. Speaking of the worksheet, kidscookrealfood.com/beyond worksheet. Again, the event's called Beyond Baking Cookies. So we know that research shows us that if we write, we're more engaged, our memory retains more, plus you'll have something to share with other adults who, feed your kids and who are in your life, in your kids' lives. So definitely open that PDF, type on it, print it if you can. Writing with actual pens helps our memory retain even more. But I have to tell you, I've been working on the presentation and cutting out some junk, some stuff that was kind of boring. So if you have spaces on that worksheet, do not despair. Many apologies to type A people who hate to have an unfinished worksheet. Just cross them out if I don't cover them, because I have actually changed things even just today, because I'm always just trying to improve and be the best that I can be and share the best information with you guys. In your emails, I think you had a link, kidscookrealfood.com/invite friends. If you did that, you already have our free gift, 10 healthy snacks kids can make. If you didn't, now is a great time. Get your friends to join you live. Just throw that on Facebook real quick, or Twitter, or whatever. Instagram is your favorite. And then we'll send that again in emails so that you can invite your friends once you know that it's good stuff. If you happen to get distracted, this is important because I know we're often distracted in life. Please go to kidscookrealfood.com/event replay, because although you can watch the replay here in this software, and we will give you that link as well, because it's fun to kind of see the chat, this one doesn't let you fast forward. So that's not very parent friendly. So we always upload a version of this presentation on YouTube where you can fast forward, and you can even watch it at a little faster speed by using the settings wheel. So again, huge welcome to everyone here. Jump in the chat. Let us know where you're from, international, in America, wherever, how many kids you have, what age kids you have. I just love learning about who's here. And again, you can see Sonia in the chat there. She's sharing the link to the workshop. And if you need it, the link to the replay, that would be not right now. Don't go to the replay now if you're on live, because we're gonna do this live. But if you get distracted or called away, or you miss the end, or you miss a really important part, you can always use that link to find the fast forwardable talk. Okay, so we've got 2 minutes to the hour. I'm going to let you guys chat in the chat. I'm actually going to turn my video off for a second so that you have a chance, without me yapping at you, to print that worksheet or download it, open it as a PDF so that you are totally ready to go at the top of the hour when I start the presentation. Cool? Okay, I will see you soon. Niech będzie pokalany Jezus Chrystus. That was how, when I was a kid, we always entered my Busha's house. No, Busha is Polish for grandma, of course. And every Sunday after church, my dad, my brother AJ, and I would go to Busha's. And we'd walk in the door and we'd say that Polish phrase, Niech będzie pokalany Jezus Chrystus. And you could smell the kielbasa, like before you entered the door, because Busha would put the kielbasa in the oven before she went to 8 o'clock mass. And we were coming in after 10 o'clock mass. This stuff had been cooking at like low temperature for hours. The whole house smelled like it. And after we would say, Niech będzie pokalany Jezus Chrystus, you'd hear from the kitchen, where my Busha always was, her little voice, Nia Beckham Beckham Amen. And what that meant was, praise be Lord Jesus Christ, that's our part, and she would say forever and ever amen. So that was how we entered my Busha's house. And we'd take off our shoes, put them on the mat, and my brother AJ, he's 3 years younger than I, we would rush into the kitchen and make sure everything was the same. Everything was ready for Sunday brunch at Busha's house. Okay, the smell of the kielbasa. We would grab our little juice glasses, the little bitty glasses like the size of orange juice that we probably should be drinking, instead of the big ones you get now that's way too much sugar. And these little bitty glasses had pictures on them. And AJ would get the green one with the cat, and I always had the orange one with the chicken, which is kind of funny. I don't know why I always got the chicken, but that was mine. Like orange was mine, green was his. There's no variance from that, right? And then Busha would turn on the stove and put in the frying pan like a pat of butter. Like this was right when like low fat, like fat was bad for you all of a sudden, but not for Busha. Oh, no. There's a whole pat of butter, like melted, sizzling, so much butter that the egg is like floating, right? The egg's like floating on top of the butter and like bouncing around. So the eggs get started, the kielbasa's going, the juice is poured, and now AJ and I go down to the basement, down the creaky steps, and through the like cement floor basement to this wooden door that was really, it was probably about my height at the time. It's a tiny door, and open like the wooden like thing, the wooden board that like goes into the holder. Open that and creak that door open to a real genuine cellar. We're under the porch now, with like dirt floor, you know, the temperature drops 20 degrees. And we'd go in there, and Busha, even in her 80s, would can all summer long. So there'd be strawberries and pears, with the little cloves that you could see through the quart jar glass, and the peaches and the bread and butter pickles. And I don't like sweet pickles. I'm a dill gal myself, but she did bread and butter pickles, and rhubarb and sauerkraut, right? Just hundreds of jars. And we would get to choose every Sunday one quart jar of fruit to bring upstairs to serve at, at the end of brunch. So we might grab the strawberries or the peaches. My favorite was the pears. So AJ and I would always argue, if we would finally decide on the one like precious quart jar and hug it, hold it tight, man, you're not dropping that. And back up the stairs to the kitchen. And always the juice glasses the same. Now after brunch, we'd stay there because Busha had cable and we didn't have cable. So then we got to watch like all the cool cable shows like Lone Ranger, Hi-Ho Tonto, right? My dad loved that. We'd watch I Love Lucy, the movies like The Little Princess and Little Orphan Annie, like all those. It's funny, we're going like, yay, cable. And it was all like the black and white stuff. That's really old. It was old then. It's really old now. And sometimes we'd stay even longer, much to my mom's chagrin, because she wanted us to come home and like rake leaves and do yard work. But sometimes we would keep staying, and AJ and I would sneak up the stairs to another wooden door that would creak open. And now this was to the attic. My Busha had the biggest house I'd been in at the time. She raised 9 kids. And the attic ran the whole length of the house. So you start going up the stairs, and like even as kids, you had to kind of like duck around the eaves, and we'd go past this little like cupboard door in the wall where my Jaja's bowling ball was kept. My Jaja died before I was born, but he was called Big Tony. And he was such a big man that when I was little, like my whole hand fit in the thumb hole of his bowling ball. So you always check, you like open the door, like, yeah, it's still there. I'm like, yeah, it still fits. Crazy big. And we'd go up and duck down and like click the, pull the cord for the bare bulb. And AJ and I loved to go into this this huge cedar closet. So you're like a cedar chest, right? The whole closet, I think, was cedar. So now we'd open an even shorter door, like open the latch, creak open the door and go in. And in that closet was like another world, because there was my Uncle Jim's army uniform from Vietnam. There were clothes that my Busha and Jaja wore in the 40s and the 50s. My Aunt Rita's wedding dress was in there all sealed up in a box. You know how you like pay a lot of money to get it cleaned and then you seal it? Possible I didn't know that shouldn't be unsealed once when I was a little older. I've never seen my Aunt Rita so mad, but okay, so that's not part of the story. And AJ and I, again, he's 3 years younger. He and I would dress up, and I would put on, like the skirt and the little hats that like the old ladies would wear to church in the 50s, and the suit coat, and be all dressed up. And AJ would put on, maybe an army uniform, or on this day, a little newsy newsboy cap. And we found a book and a ruler in the attic. And so, of course, we have to play school. Like, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always known that I would be a teacher. So we're playing school. AJ's got the little book, and I'm, wrapping the ruler and standing at attention and stuff. And we had so much fun up there in the attic. And I remember when my Busha passed away, when I was in college, my dad he's a storyteller. He's a car salesman, and a Polish car salesman, right? And he told story after story at the funeral, like about how my Busha would make 9 loaves of bread every week. And she sat on this special stool, and she had a whole wash tub, like, the metal big wash tubs. And she would knead the dough in this wash tub and bake 9 loaves of bread every single week. And my Jaja, who was car salesman first, he would bring home like businessmen and people from Chrysler unannounced for lunch. And Busha always had a hot meal on the table and like never complained that Jaja brought them home. And at our wedding, my husband and I found that wash tub, and we had the florist like fill that with flowers in the center, of our display. And we actually had other flowers like on that little stool that my Busha used to sit on and knead that bread. And also after she passed, my brother and I got to split up those juice glasses. I got 2 and he got 2. And so like I've always been a proponent of kids using real dishes and real tools and supplies. I don't believe in like giving kids plastic things, because I want them to learn what's real. I want them to learn to be careful. And so I've always, from the moment I was a mom, like tried to have my kids like build independence. And so I would let my first son, Paul, use these glasses even when he was, younger than 2. And this one day, I don't know what I was thinking. Well, I do. I was on the phone. I was on the phone talking with my friend Cheryl, and he was kind of like playing. He had finished his lunch and he was playing with things because he was bored. And so here I am, like half engaged with him at this point, my only child, and half talking on the phone. And the moment that green glass with the cat on it went off the table, I remember thinking, what were you doing letting him spin that on the table? He's only 2. And it shattered all over the tile floor. Huge, tiles hard. So a huge shatter. Paul's crying. I've got tears in my eyes. I'm thinking AJ is going to be so mad at me. I don't know how I got the green one. That should have been his. And then when my third son, my third child, John, broke another one of them in our new house 7 years later, I'm tearing up and the kids are crying because they know how much these glasses mean to me. And I got on eBay and I found the set of these glasses, and I paid, oh my gosh, I paid a ridiculous amount per glass. We gave them to the kids in their Easter baskets. They each got one. And I just remember like thinking, people like you and me, like we don't spend this much on secondhand glasses with shipping too. Like this is ridiculous, but I'm doing it. And thinking back, I think maybe like the importance of that bread tub at our wedding and spending all that money to replace the glasses was kind of me dealing with this tremendous guilt I had, that when I was in college and I was taking summer classes and waitressing at Coral Gables, I didn't go home when Busha was in hospice. I didn't go home to be next to her bed when she died. And so I'm always trying to hang on to those things, My kids still use the green one with the cat on it that I repurchased. And that's all part of just a little piece of my mission here at Kids Cook Real Food. And my mission today is to bring back that importance of family. I just really think here in our culture, we need to reestablish those connections around making food and creating things together and creating those traditions in our family that have to do with kitchen and the food and the kitchen and food and being together with family. So that's what we're going to jump into today, is how we can really do that. Hopefully I hit the right one here. And now that I have 4 kids now who break glasses sometimes, but it's still important to me to let them use the real thing. My kids are Gabe, the little guy, is 4, and John is 7, and Leah is 10, and Paul, my first, is now 14, which gives me heart palpitations. I've got a freshman in college next year. Oh my gosh. And they've all been part of this together with me. But I want to hear from you guys now in the chat. And I just want you to imagine your kids when they grow up. What kind of adults do you want them to grow up to be? What are the qualities that you want them to have? Like, just picture yourself sending that child off into the world at age 18 or whatever age they are when they leave your house. And what do you want to see in them? And I love asking this question of moms. I get the best answers. Things like being responsible and independent. A lot of people really want their kids to be caring and kind and generous. They want them to be joyful. And I hear a lot of hard work ethic or being faithful or prayerful. And I just know, that all of this comes into the kitchen. That's what I'm going to show you today. So I just want you to watch as we continue talking for the qualities that you want in your kids. And if you want all that, if you want that family connection and you want to raise adults that, man, you are just proud to send out into the world and you can't wait for them to take on society and make their mark, give me a yes. Give me a yes in the comments. What you'll learn, friends, in the next 20 minutes, we'll start with the brain science behind cooking and why it's so important for kids' brains and bodies to be in the kitchen. We'll dig into the biggest mistake parents often make when they draw their kids into the kitchen, and then we'll get super practical. We're going to talk about when to introduce knives to kids, at what age. I'll show you a little sneak preview in our course about my 3-step superpower process that we use. It's loosely based on the Montessori system, but parents tell me you can use this to teach kids anything inside and outside the kitchen. And then, of course, we've got to talk about how to motivate those kids to get into the kitchen and to, really enjoy it and want to be there so that you can get a little bit back too. Ladies and gents, you are definitely in the right place, whether you bake occasionally with your kids or you value healthy food, but maybe like you haven't really involved your kids much. Or like I saw a lot of you in the poll, your kids love being in the kitchen and you love having them there. But of course, it'd be nice to be a little more intentional about it. I'm just going to turn that poll off right now. But we got 50% of you love having your kids in the kitchen with me, or with you. Sorry, I'm reading it. And that's great. That's great. Honestly, that may be the highest percentage I've ever seen on one of these. So well done. Thanks for being here. Now, I know a lot of us want our kids to eat healthy, right? We care about their bodies. That's what we're doing. It's what we're feeding them. And brain science actually teaches us that when kids are involved with food, they're more likely to eat it. So this is your first way to supercharge, your kids' time at the table. And I call this the exposure bucket. How it works is that every person has a unique tolerance for a food, okay? So like if I'm, baby Katie, I might need 1 taste of broccoli to like it. I might need 10 tastes of broccoli to try it. Like all the advice when you're feeding your baby, right? It's like, give it to him 10 times. Don't give up. Everybody needs 10 times to like a food. Well, everybody doesn't need 10 times, but everybody does have a bucket or a threshold. Some of your kids may need 127 times with broccoli before they like it. Some people call those picky eaters. We're not going to call them that because the good news is that any exposure to food will count. Whether your bucket is 10 or 127, if your kids are shopping for the food with you, washing the food, preparing the broccoli, cooking it, serving it, all of those things count to fill their tolerance bucket or their exposure bucket with that broccoli. So how cool is that? When you can get kids involved with food, that's one of the reasons why they're more likely to try new things. A little more brain science. Now, psychologists have identified something they call the confidence-competence loop. Do not try to say that fast. and it's very simple. All it means is that when you build competence in a skill, so your child knows how to do a skill, they feel more confident at it, obviously. And the loop part is where it gets cool. When you're more confident about something, you want to do it more. And then you build competence in further skills. And then your confidence raises, and then you want to do it more. So our job as parents, you guys, is just to get our kids in to the middle of that confidence-competence loop. All you have to do is start to build one skill and let your kids feel the feeling of competence, knowing how to do something. And then their confidence raises, and now they kind of want to be in the kitchen with you learning more. Super powerful snowball effect. Next, we have the great value of connection. Okay, you guys, research shows us that when kids have just one strong bond with an adult, they get on the right side of the statistics, okay? They get where you want your kids and where I want my kids. They are less likely to do drugs and alcohol. They're less likely to be depressed, and we know depression is raising intensely in kids these days, and they're less likely to contemplate suicide. This adult can be you. It can be someone else. This is my son Paul again, and this is his godmother, Cheryl, who is my best friend from college. And as you can see, she's been such a part of his life. We've never lived in the same town, but she came to see him as a baby. She comes, you know, for every important event in his life, right? His birthdays. The bottom left is actually grandparents' day at school because the grandparents were in Florida. So she came as his, you know, grandparent substitute. And every time she comes, I know they connect, and I know that that connection has such powerful value to reduce all these risky behaviors. It's grounding him. The adult can be you, and it's awesome to see those connections form in the kitchen because you're working together, right? And you're doing something that matters. Now, often when we bring our kids in the kitchen, it doesn't always go smoothly, right? I can remember many a time in my kitchen where there's too much flour on the floor and on my kids' pants, and there's a smear of coconut oil across the counter, and there's honey in somebody's hair, and it's like, this is not what I intended, you know, this is not what I pictured. And I think with our little kids, right, our 2, 3, 4, or 5-year-olds, like the ones in this picture, the biggest mistake parents make is that we don't always have the right target for our expectations. It's totally a mental mistake because we're just not thinking about what our kids can actually do, okay? So for these young kids, we have this perfect picture in our mind, and we're just overestimating what they can actually do, okay? So to fix this big mistake, we just need to slow down and find the right target for our expectations. It's been a long time since you were 3 or 4, right? And we just forget, like, we just forget what it's like to have to learn or be taught everything, right? Like, we just kind of expect that kids can know and do things, but we totally have to think small when it comes to our little kids. So to fix that biggest mistake, you really need to break down everything you're teaching into little steps, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later when we go into our 3-step process, but also lower your expectations. Remember that kids are tiny and they're going to make messes, and just expect that going in. One way that we really empower our little kids is our special measuring system for kids who can't read, okay? You can use this, like I want you to take this home with you. I want you to use this the next time you're in the kitchen with your little ones. So all you need to do is have them put a set of 4 teaspoons or a set of 4 measuring cups in order, biggest to smallest, and you teach them real quick. This is the dad, this is the mom, this is the kid, and this is the baby. And like, that's, even if your family structure is different than that, kids all kind of know that family structure, and it's easy. They learn it right away. And now you can say from across the room, honey, can I have a mommy teaspoon of salt? Or, you know, a mommy spoon of salt. Or just hand me the baby spoon for your 2-year-old, and suddenly they have a job that they can do themselves and completely by themselves. And it's so empowering. When we work with bigger kids, it's actually the same mistake in reverse, okay? We have the wrong target for our expectations, but generally with our bigger kids, we're underestimating. So check out this writing here. Across the bottom is, my name is John, my little John, when he was in kindergarten, and you can see the words are very big, and you know, it's very sloppy. Kids don't have a lot of small motor control in preschool, kindergarten. But just 2 years later, 2 years, like that's not even very long. In 2nd grade, you can see my daughter wrote this whole story. She has a picture, you know, her thinking is much more in depth, and her writing is so much smaller. And she's learned to read, right? Like so much happens between kindergarten and 2nd grade. But as parents, like, life is going by, right? And we just sometimes don't even realize that while our kids have made this huge academic progress, we're often keeping them in the same place in the kitchen. And even though our kids are 6 or 7 or 8, we're still just letting them dump ingredients into the pumpkin, you know, muffins and stir the banana bread, right? And I know I've done it too. Like, I was there too. That's why this whole thing started, because I realized I had not been teaching my kids to cook. And you know, so if you look at this writing and you got to think, oh, Like we have to now with bigger kids, the solution is to raise those expectations, right? And to teach, we want to still teach in a kid-friendly manner, but 6, 7, 8, 9, I guarantee they can do more than you ever thought they were capable of. In this picture is our class where I'm teaching the girls how to make rice. Okay, and I have had many a time where I made crunchy rice as an early homemaker, and my poor husband had to suffer through so many crunchy rice meals because I didn't know that you're not supposed to take the lid off and you're not supposed to stir it ever. Did you guys know that? I learned this in later adulthood. And so I'm able to teach the kids that, and we make it silly. We say no peeking, and then, while the rice is cooking for 15 minutes, I continually walk across the kitchen and go, girls, I'm just going to check on the rice. Give me a minute. And they have to say, no peeking. And we all collapse into giggles. And then, 2 minutes later, I say, oh, I'm just going to stir the rice. Give me a second, girls. And they're like, no peeking. And it's so simple. But I guarantee kids who take this class will never take the lid off rice, right? Because it's funny and it goes into your mind. So kid-friendly, but raise those expectations on your kids once they're in elementary school. For example, how about knives? Okay, a lot of parents tell me they're a little nervous about teaching their kids to use knives, and we actually do start teaching knife skills at age 2 with butter knives. But we use the same technique, right, as we do with chef's knives. Butter knives to chef's knives is this nice seamless transition. So if you've got preschoolers, I envy you. You're lucky because you get to start them with these butter knife techniques. And by the time they're 5 or 6, it's going to be simple for you to say, you know what? Yeah, I can totally give them a sharp knife because I've seen them be safe for 2 years, right? So we hit knife skills really hard in Kids Cook Real Food, and we teach 3 safe ways to hold the food and 4 different ways to move the knife. You can find a free little preview video on our homepage at kidscookrealfood.com. Don't go right now, though. Don't go right now, because I'm going to tell you a few extra tips that aren't in that video. That's the one you do with the kids, and I'll teach you up and over soldier, and I'll teach you tug of war pull and top chop and all these great ways to move the knife and hold the food safely. But I know a lot of people wonder, well, what knife is the right knife for my kids? Okay. So in general, with your preschool crowd or anyone who's just starting, regardless of their age, start them with a butter knife. Okay. And then once they're showing proficiency in all their holds and techniques with a butter knife, then a short paring knife is where it's at. If you've got a dollar store paring knife, go for it. Don't let them cut an apple with a dollar store paring knife. Paul learned that was a bad idea the hard way, unfortunately, but he'll never do it again. He'll never do it again. So then a short paring knife is best. And that usually will start at age 5, 6, or 7, depending on the maturity of the kid. We have some members in our class who have 3- and 4-year-olds using sharp knives. And I'm like, yes, independence, that's so awesome. And then once the child's showing proficiency with a paring knife, and usually they will initiate asking to move up to a bigger knife, or you can initiate it. But I would say, really, whenever you think they're ready and they're safe with that paring knife, move them up to a chef's knife. Chef's knives range from 5 inches to 12 inches, 5 or 6. Okay, 5 or 6 inch chef's knife. You can check our resources page, and maybe Sonia will drop this in the chat. My favorite 5-inch chef's knife is $20. Okay, $20 on Amazon. It's a Victorinox brand. And kids can start using that really at pretty young ages. Now, so okay, I already said this. Check out our safety and technique video, and you can really supercharge your time in the kitchen with your kids. So I will teach your kids in your kitchen, and just grab that after this presentation at kidscookrealfood.com. Now, the right food, you guys, this is as important to success and safety as the right knife and the right technique, okay? Because again, like I said, my oldest son, of course, he was very proficient with my dollar store paring knife, but he used it on a huge apple, and it was dull, and he did cut himself. And it was a really sad moment in the Kids Cook Real Food household. He was the first child to cut himself. It wasn't bad because his hands were in a safe enough place, right? We might nick our fingers, but we're never gonna cut one off because we teach them to stay hey out of the way. But he was using the wrong food for the knife. So fit the food to the knife. What that means is that when you've got your little ones with your butter knives, slides are not changing. Oh my goodness, you guys are way back on Kimball Family. You're kidding me. Oh no. What happened? Hang on. Let me see what I can do here. I'm going to stop the screen share. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I did not realize you were stuck on the wrong slide. Let me see if I can get this. Yeah, no, I don't want to see the Kimball Family anymore. I want to see all these things that you were supposed to be able to see. Oh no. What is going on? Weird. So weird. Hang on. I will fix this, folks. Yeah, I see it's still on the family photo slide. It's supposed to be way further. This one maybe? It gave me two options to share. Ah, okay. I know you all can see the garlic now. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Oh, terrible of me. I did not see, and I didn't see Sonia yelling at me. Okay, phew, thank you, Sarah. So sorry. Let me see if I think, did you miss anything? Luckily, most of this stuff was just cute pictures. Oh yeah, the handwriting you should have been able to see. My name is John. Yikes, so sorry. Okay, these two are important slides. Most of the slides are just like pictures and words that are also on your worksheet. The measuring for kids who can't read, very, very cool. Dad, mom, kid, baby. It just goes in order, biggest to smallest. Okay, so you can, I don't know, you can take a picture of this or screenshot it if you want. I'll let it sit here for a minute. But this is something that you can use, right away today or tomorrow with your 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, and they catch on, boom, like so fast. It's so fun. Okay, and then the other slide that was kind of fun to see is that kindergarten writing, right? My name is John, and then my daughter's 2nd grade writing. So you can see, like with your eyeballs right here, like 2 years, how much better the small motor control gets, and that's kind of what we fill in. Okay, I am going to read the chat a little bit more here. Usually I'm just like so focused on what I'm saying. Okay, if anyone has any questions, I'm all off the game already, so just ask them and we'll see what we've missed here. There, see, that's our up and over soldier and our tug of war pull technique. Those are the 3 types of knife you're going to use, right? Butter knife for little kids, sharp, short paring knife once they're ready. Use the same strategies, same techniques, and then when they feel confident with the paring knife, move up to that big old chef's knife. Okie dokie. And now the right food. Okay, so this is an important slide too. You might want to screenshot this one. For your little kids, when you're working with that butter knife, very important, obviously, that it's soft food so that they're not having to muscle that butter knife through something that's just not appropriate. So we start our little ones with bananas, melons with the rinds cut off. You can do any kind of soft fruit. Sometimes you might core it or peel it and then let them have at it. And then cooked vegetables, right? Peeled baked potatoes or boiled potatoes, roasted carrots. Once the vegetable's cooked, it's great for those little ones to just go at it with the butter knife using their safe skills, right, that you'll learn at kidscookerealfood.com with our little free preview. Our middle-sized kids, once they're moving up to a paring knife, we want to make sure that the food fits the knife. So strawberries are perfect with the right hold. Mushrooms are awesome. Pineapple, mom or dad cut off the top and the outside and core the pineapple, and then kids can do all of the rest with a short paring knife. And then cucumbers and zucchini are that awesome kind of like medium density where it's hard enough that it's kind of difficult with a butter knife, but soft enough that paring knife can handle it, whereas a paring knife on carrots, really hard carrots, tends to get a little dangerous. So with our big kids, once they're moving up to the chef's knife, really they can do anything, right? But I do think there's a proper order as they're learning and building their confidence with that chef's knife. So you want to start with the long items that don't roll away. So carrots and celery, and again, the cubes and zucchini can come back in with that chef's knife. Then once they feel confident with the bigger knife in their hand, now you can move up to big things like melons, complicated stuff like onions, and actually peppers are really good before onions. I should move that on the slide. And honestly, of course, a chef's knife can cut anything, right? Bonus tip is to sharpen your knives, truly, because they're less likely to slip. So even though it sounds more dangerous to have a sharp knife, they're less likely to slip, so you're not going to get cut if the knife does not slip and hit your hand, right? For example, you would never give a kid with a butter knife a clove of garlic, right? That would not be the correct food for the knife. And, garlic really can be tricky, as I found when I was in college. I remember, I was telling my kids about the first time I ever cooked with garlic, because although, my mom was a good cook, but she cooked kind of like pseudo from scratch, right? So she'd make her own spaghetti sauce with a can of Campbell's tomato soup as the base. So it was like processed from scratch blend thing. So I had never cut or seen a pepper be cut, or a, fresh garlic. We would just use garlic powder. So in college, I was so geeked to be an adult, right? The first time I subleased an apartment in the summer between living in the dorms, I was like, hot stuff. I thought it was so cool to have a kitchen, and I got all these quick cooking magazines from my mom or my grandma, and I can just picture myself sitting on the couch every day after work. I ran a daycare age 5 through 12 program, and every day after work I would come home and sit in the sunbeam coming in the sliding glass door and go through these quick cooking magazines and these 5 ingredient or less recipes, and I would tear them out and I would dog-ear the corner of the magazine, and just constantly trying new recipes and figuring stuff out. So I invited some friends to come over once for dinner, and I had chosen this pork chop recipe. It sounded very fancy. It was applesauce pork chops, and it called for a clove of garlic, right? So I do my shopping. I get my applesauce and my pork chops. I'd never bought a pork chop in my life. I had no idea what to expect. I bought my garlic, and I came home, and as I'm trying to chop up this garlic, probably with a very dull knife, by the way, because college students, right? Trying to chop up this garlic, and I'm like, how in the world does anyone expect me to get through all this papery stuff? It's just everywhere. It's sticking to my fingers, and it's sticking to the cutting board. It's just a little papery stuff everywhere. And I'm like, I don't even know. I'm not even sure what part of this clove of garlic is supposed to go into my recipe. This one clove of garlic. Yeah, you may have figured out by now that I thought that the whole bulb was a clove. So it's kind of good. My friends don't know that they should have been thankful for this, but they should be thankful that I'm not really a naturally patient person, because I definitely gave up before the whole bulb went into the applesauce pork chop recipe. I probably got 5 to 6 cloves in there though, and a little bit of paper. I'm glad that my friends were such nice people. They were church friends, so they were nice people. Maggie Morrissey and Joan Barron, and they forgave me for feeding them highly over-garliced applesauce pork chops. And I remember telling that to my kids, and of course saying to them, I know your grandma didn't teach me that, but she did teach me a lot of the stuff we do in our class about snow plowing it flat and uniform mixtures and all these cool phrases. And my daughter Leah, she's 10. And she was 10 then too. And she says, Mom, I'm pretty sure I'm a better cook now than you were in college. And I was like, yeah, totally. I'm absolutely sure that you are. And all that work that we've put in really has paid off, because every Sunday, my kids make dinner. They're wearing goggles because they're cutting onions, in case you're wondering in this picture, which now I think you can see. Yay. So you can see these, right, guys? Okay. A couple years ago, I really felt called to volunteer at high school youth group. And my husband was like, Katie, you are crazy. That's not a good idea at all. Number one, you have no time. Number two, you hate things that happen at dinner time. And I just know that if you try to go somewhere every Sunday at 5, you're going to be stressed out. You're going to never have dinner ready on time. And you're going to be leaving in a huff with half-finished dinners all the time and just being an angry person all night. I am kind of an angry person sometimes. So my husband was right, and we needed a solution. And so I approached Paul and Leah. I want to say they were 11 and 8 at the time. And I said, guys, would you be willing to take over dinner every Sunday so that Mom can go serve the high school students? And they said they would. So it was really kind of cool how we kind of as a whole family now we're able to serve our church. And they make dinner every Sunday. And they've learned a lot from it, sometimes by failure, sometimes by success. And part of the reason they're able to do that is because I taught them slowly, step by step, how to cook, right? And this is our 3-step process. I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain and share with you guys so that you can teach your kids specific skills in the kitchen. And again, this also works like outside of the kitchen for any skill you want to teach your kids. This is loosely based on the Montessori process, which I love. And we call it demonstrate, guide, and coach to independence. So let me unpack these a little bit. First, whenever you're teaching a new skill, you want to demonstrate it to your kids and don't give them the tools. I know the kids have knives in this picture. It's because they've seen it before. But the first time, you don't want to give the kids the tools. Like any teacher will tell you, if the kids have manipulatives in their hands, their ears go closed and they're not listening to you anymore. So you show them, you talk it through, and that like break it down into little step-by-step processes, especially for the little one. And you show them first and make them watch you. Then step 2, this is what's like so missing, I think, and so critical to having things feel comfortable for you and the child. We call this our guide process, and we use a hand-over-hand technique. Okay, so you can see my daughter's hands are on mine in this picture as I'm cracking the egg. They can see what your hands do when you crack the egg, but what they can't see is how much pressure to use. Okay, so over and over, when she's 2 and she's 3 and she's 4, my daughter's hands were on mine cracking eggs. And then when she was 5, actually I think she was 4, we switched, and I let her drive the boat. And I let her crack the egg with my hand on top to just kind of guide her a little bit. By the time she was 5, she could crack a dozen eggs with not a shell in the bowl. It was awesome because she had had this guide step about pressure. You use this for eggs, knives, stirring so kids don't pop stuff out of the bowl, doing things at the stove. You want to start with the guide step. And then quickly for big kids, more slowly for little kids, you move on to step 3, which is coach to independence. Okay, just like a good coach, you're going to give your kids lots of chances for repetition and practice, and it may take years for them to master their skills, right? And that's okay. And then you stay close like a coach, and you redirect them with your words so they don't get bad habits right away because we want them to remain safe. But again, just like a good coach with practice, repetition is key. So our fun phrases like up and over soldier and Pac-Man the lid, those really cement in the safety techniques. And I know a lot of our members say like the kids will use these months after taking the classes. They'll use them in the sandbox when they're playing. And that's why Kids Cook Real Food really helps families keep their kids safe and build those skills in intentional ways. All right, now you came here because you are ready to get your kids in the kitchen. So let's set a goal. Like just choose one of your kids and think what is something that they're maybe ready to step into the guide step with. And my hint for you is just do it this week. Try to do it this week because you'll forget if you wait longer than that. I cannot wait to hear from you about the benefits you see when you start getting your kids in the kitchen. I love hearing from our members, and Lisa Tim is a homeschooling mom, and she says her kids actually want to help in the kitchen every day, and they never ask to help before doing Kids Cook Real Food. And Tara from Oregon has like gotten to the holy grail of kids in the kitchen that they're actually taking initiative to do cleanup and dishes, right? Because it's that confidence competence loop. They feel good about what they're doing in the kitchen. They build that confidence. And then like, holy cow, Tara is not doing dishes anymore because her kids are. That's awesome. Now, if your kids are not that like 15% that's really excited to get in the kitchen and learn to cook, this part's for you. We're going to just do 5 quick tips to motivate those kids to want to help you, okay? And we'll build these around our 3 C's at Kids Cook Real Food: connection, confidence, and creativity. All these things we build in the kitchen. So the first tip is to be social. And this works, of course, for kids who treasure their friends, right? My son, John, oh my gosh, he's 4 in that picture, but he's 7 now. He's in 2nd grade, and every single night his prayer sounds like this. Thank you, God, for Mom, Dad, Gigi, Papa, Lily, Jill, and thank you, God, that I got to play with Simon today. And about 20% of the time he goes, oh, no, I didn't. But like playing with his friend Simon is like the most important part of his day. And so much so, right, that he's thanking God for it, like sometimes even when it doesn't happen, which is pretty darn funny. So is that a need for John to be with his friends? Yeah, definitely. He's an introvert. believe it or not. He's a total introvert and he totally values his alone time and building and stuff. But that one friend, that favorite friend, that's going to motivate him. So if you are, brave enough to say, hey, invite your friends over for cooking class, you're going to get kids engaged. My daughter, Leah, is 10 now, and she loves being with friends too, and she really treasures her closest friends as well. But even more of a motivator for her is one-on-one time with her parents. Like if she has a goal, we had this goal from our dentist that they had to do this game where they held a paperclip in their mouth for like 20 minutes a day to help encourage nose breathing instead of mouth breathing. We do all sorts of weird stuff. But anyway, if she got that 25 days in a row, she got to choose her prize. So my oldest son chose money, and she chose a date one-on-one with a parent. And you know what we did? We went grocery shopping. Like, we went grocery shopping. And she got to like choose a dinner from like the hot bar at Whole Foods, but grocery shopping. She treasures being with her mom so much that I get to be productive while she's with me, which is pretty awesome. So if you have a child who treasures that time, oh my gosh, like make it a quality time activity, especially if you have more than like 2 or 3 kids. It is amazing to be able to say, okay, like the neighbor or the babysitter or the dad or the grandma is going to take all the kids but you, and you and mama are going to cook. Whew, they'll be motivated, trust me. Now, we've already talked a couple times about this confidence competence loop because I think it's so powerful, so powerful. All you have to do is teach a skill intentionally. It's like basically if you just take that first step and teach that first skill, that loop is going to take over as far as motivation. So definitely, especially for that personality of kid who like loves to feel good about things, they feel like hot stuff the first time they ride that bike. And when they get to cross the road by themselves for the first time, like those kids especially are like supercharged in the competence loop. But all kids, this works for all kids. Another way to build confidence and that motivation in the kitchen is to have a focus on service. It really feels good to help others. You may have seen, if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen a couple weeks ago, I think, we made 220 trail mixes for our 3rd and 4th grade students for their like standardized testing snacks. And again, and this is my daughter, she like just loves being grown up and she loves helping. And so she was like, Mom, you cannot do that at some other mom's house. Like you need to do it at our house. You're going to do it at someone else's house. Let's make half of them at our house. So I'm like, okay, like we did it at our house. And she was the CEO. She was moving things along and we made 220 trail mixes. Like, I don't know, half an hour. No, maybe an hour and a half. And she was just filled up, right? Because she could do it because she was serving others. And so again, like so many kids love that feeling of giving to others, and watching someone else make food that you've eaten is about the best confidence builder I've ever seen. So certainly give your kids chances to cook for other people, right? Invite friends over. When you go to a potluck, get the kids involved. Highly motivating. My last tip is on the creativity side, and it just kind of has to do with that feeling of independence, right? Like I can do this by myself, and mom and dad are giving me a big kid job or like, an adult job, right? Like cutting with a sharp knife. In these pictures, you're seeing a 2-year-old cutting up cucumbers with a butter knife. She's cut up everything on that plate, you guys, all those peppers, all those cucumbers, with the focus of a 2-year-old, because 2-year-olds feel amazing when they're doing real skills, right? On the left is Rebecca, and she made that whole meal. I got to tell you about it. There's gluten-free homemade onion rings. There's steak, roasted asparagus, and I honestly can't remember what the last one is. She did it all herself. Your kids will rise to the occasion and infuse all of their creativity and focus when you let them stand at the stove like Patience on the right and make her own pancakes. I guarantee you she was adding chocolate chips and blueberries and cinnamon and nutmeg and trying things right after that picture was shot. So cool. And it really, really inspires them to be motivated to come into the kitchen. Now, there's a lot of ways to get your kids involved in the kitchen. So for you today, you got to think what's going to work for you, right? Sur La Table has summer cooking classes. I'm sure lots of rec centers do. usually parents aren't involved, so I miss that connection piece, but they're out there, right? There's all the baking and cooking shows, MasterChef Junior, kids love being motivated by that. And then there's plenty of cookbooks out there for kids. I would love it. I would be totally honored if you would, allow me to be on your parenting team. Kids Cook Real Food can be one of your methods to get your kids in the kitchen, because we lay things out in a step-by-step process. We use that kid-friendly language like Pac-Man the lid, and we make it really fun and engaging for you and your kids. So the idea, of course, hopefully, is that those cookbooks, those kids' cookbooks that were maybe a little too hard, and maybe the kids didn't quite know how to make the recipes, now you can use them. Now your kids can watch MasterChef Junior and actually say, you know what, I can cut things up like that. I'm going to go into the kitchen and actually make something, instead of just like feeling inspired but not really knowing what to do, right? So we are all about the skills. We find, other parents find that using our classes gives them the best experience they've ever had in the kitchen, because I know a lot of parents feel that frustration bringing the kids in. It doesn't always go well, but we do all the thinking for you, so it goes better. My husband remarked that their knife skills were much improved after just one video. Again, we are all about the practical and all about supercharging every moment you spend. And I love this. This is from Erin. She says, my 5-year-old always asks to help, but I never knew how to start. And after just that knife skills class, just that class that you can get on our homepage, he cut up avocados, lettuce for tacos, and made a fruit salad. 5 years old, you guys. Raise that bar. Our Kids Cook Real Food approach is all based around building connections, raising kids' confidence, and infusing their life with creativity. Okay, and we find that this happens in other areas of life too. Even in my own family, my daughter Leah in 5th grade applied for class officer, and she's like really kind of timid sometimes. So it was shocking to me that she applied for class officer, and I really believe that it's that confidence that she's built doing these authentic adult skills in the kitchen that allowed her to have the belief in herself to do that. For you guys, for you parents, I know sometimes you need a little confidence, a little courage to get your kids started. And so my guarantee for you is that all of our skills at Kids Cook Real Food are super interconnected. And this is just a little piece of our curriculum map. But if you have kids at different ages, the guarantee here is that not only will your kids be learning developmentally appropriate skills that connect one week to another week to another week with what they've learned in the past, but also if they have big brothers or sisters, the skills that those kids learn on the same day all create a food that comes together in one meal or snack. It's pretty cool to watch. So in Kids Cook Real Food, again, these are going to be your developmentally appropriate skills. So watch for your child's age, and you'll know kind of where to start them in the kitchen the next time you walk in, whether you're working with me or using, a DIY method or a kid's cookbook or whatever. So at the beginner level, which is our preschoolers, this is our ages 2 to 5, we really focus on that connection, having positive experiences in the kitchen, even though you're thinking like they're too messy, they're too slow. Focus hard on giving them positive experiences so that they want to come back. And then we work on a lot of small motor skills. So this little guy's pouring. We work on measuring with that mom, dad, kid, baby that I already taught you. We, tear up lettuce and make a salad. We get their fingers into dough, and a lot of little small motor skills, especially cutting with a butter knife, so that they start to build their muscle memory for when they get a little bit older. If you have no idea, if you never thought about your preschooler's small motor skills, just have them brush your teeth. Okay, have them brush your teeth, and you will completely empathize with why they're spilling salt and chili powder all over the counter when they're trying to measure a perfectly flat teaspoon, okay? Now, as your kids move into elementary school, so this is like 6, 7, 8, maybe, early L, now we can start to focus on building that confidence in real skills. So at Kids Cook Real Food, the 3 major skills we tackle at our intermediate level are reading a recipe well, right? All the Pinterest fails you've seen and maybe had yourself show you that, yeah, reading a recipe really is a skill. And it's different than reading a chapter book. We do start them on sharp knives, those paring knives with the same techniques as the butter knife, and we get them at the stove. They're old enough to understand now what's hot and what's not. And working at the stove is a huge confidence booster because they know it's the real deal. Now, once your kids master those 3 skills, okay, so this is what we call our advanced level. It could start at 8, 9, 10, could start at 12. Some kids are hitting advanced at 6 or 7 because they've mastered the stovetop, the sharp knives, and reading a recipe well. Super cool. In the advanced level, now the kids can start to play with their creativity more. Knife skills are so important that 4 of the 8 videos in the advanced level are chef's knife skills. And then we start working with the kids on kind of how do you balance a whole meal, and they're strong enough also at that age to get into the oven. And then there's that trickle down effect. Of course, this is my little guy, Gabe. He's not in the advanced level, but Leah is. And she's confident enough that she loves working with him and ends up teaching him the skills. So like I kind of get a little break because all the skills just trickle down from the big kids to the little. When you join us in the eCourse, if you choose to work with us as your partners in parenting, you'll learn over 30 basic skills with lesson plans that are either one-page simple or super detailed. Every lesson, of course, has videos that your kids can just watch. So it's like I'm doing step 1. I'm doing the demonstration step, and you get to go into the kitchen and do the fun part. All our recipes are written in a special kid-friendly style, and we do not allow junk food or convenience foods. It's all healthy foods, you know, whole fruits and vegetables and grains and meats and stuff like that. The online dashboard is easily accessible on any device. And then we have these cool like printable recipe cards. I'm sorry, not recipe, flashcards, printable cards, so that the fun phrases that you're learning, right? So if you're learning Up and Over Soldier, you're going to print those cards, take them into your kitchen so that everybody has the same vocabulary around cooking in each of those 3 skill levels that are sort of loosely based on age. Now, all of this together is actually a value of $230. Do not worry, we don't charge that much. We actually add a little bit more first. Our most popular access point is VIP, which is where you get all the levels and downloadable videos so you can keep them forever. And as your kids grow, they can work through the levels. VIP also has a private Facebook group with a lot of support, extra tips, questions with me, and we share a lot of pictures and brag on what our kids are doing. My favorite class is in VIP. It's the hospitality class. So that's where we teach our little ones to carry the plates, set and wash the table. And we have a special Instant Pot video that we made in there, extending some of the skills in the basic course to what you can do with the Instant Pot. And you know, all of our groceries are pretty normal things that you probably buy all the time anyway, except for gelatin. I know some of you might not normally buy gelatin, so we make that really easy with a 50% off code at Perfect Supplements, and you can make this really cool 100% fruit juice gelatin. That's in the pouring class of our beginner level. Additionally, this adds another $120 value. And I also teamed up with a lot of my friends and colleagues in the blog world, and they shared full-length ebooks and printables and activity guides with my VIP members. Super cool and generous of them. That makes the VIP another $100 value. So, okay, let's talk. If you could feel confident about bringing your kids in the kitchen and provide that like incredible quality time that's not stressful, would that be worth 50 bucks? 50 bucks is all you need to start access at a single level, like just beginner or just intermediate. And that's already a $26 savings. But now, what if your kids could grow through their skill levels and make whole dinners and inspire that confidence and creativity for years and years to come? What if you could get that cool hospitality class and all those VIP bonuses and keep your classes forever? Hundreds of dollars of resources. VIP is over $450 in value. Would that be worth 150 bucks to you for all of your kids? Compared to in-person cooking classes, this is so cheap. It's so cheap. Plus, because you're hanging out with me today, because I know you're committed to raising healthy kids, we're going to give you a $25 gift certificate for VIP memberships. This expires, okay, we got Memorial Day weekend coming up. This expires Wednesday next week. Okay, so you got a little time to talk it over with your spouse, think about it, check the budget, but I guarantee that you will get a return on your investment almost immediately. And in fact, I'm so confident that I want to make you confident. You'll have 30 days to take the course for a test drive. Make sure it fits with your kids' personalities. Make sure it fits with any allergies and sensitivities you have. And if you don't love it in 30 days, full money back refund, no questions asked. All right, y'all, you are warmly invited to spend a little more time with me and my kids, building family connections and learning to make healthy food together. We would love to see you in our Kids Cook Real Food e-course. This is my dream for you, you guys. This is my dream, that you get a chance to do, you know, your Bible study or take a bath or read a book while your kids are cooking in the kitchen. And more importantly, that your kids feel the confidence on the faces of these members right here, that they are cooking and serving each other and just loving being in the kitchen. Now, my background's as an elementary teacher, so I know that we kind of like need to review sometimes. So I want you to think back to, we talked about brain science, why it's so important to get kids in the kitchen. We talked about our 3-step process and the biggest mistake a lot of parents make and how to fix that with our expectations, right? And we talked about those 5 different ways to motivate kids to get into the kitchen and to enjoy cooking with you. So I'm so curious, would you type in the chat, what was most useful to you today? And this is going to bring this right down, you know, at the brain level, help you remember things, and also help other people know, you know, what was helpful. For Anne, who taught all 5 of her kids at once, Anne's a homeschooling mom. And look at that, Dad's involved too with the apron. Do you love that? I love Dad in the apron. Anne started teaching the classes, and what was most helpful to her was that her 12-year-old gave her a hug and thanked her. He thought it was super fun to learn to cook. I know we're not in the parenting gig for the thanks, but it's pretty awesome when we get it. And Anne's 9-year-old at bedtime said, I wish we could do cooking class every day. I wish you could too. And Amy from California, she's like trying to be healthy. And she said, no, daughter, we can't buy rice-a-roni anymore. And her daughter, who is a tween, you know, the preteens, they want to be cool, made our homemade rice-a-roni in the course. And she said, Mom, it tastes just like real rice-a-roni. What a score. And Amy even admits that she learned a thing or two herself. So I'm sure that she would tell you, you don't have to know how to cook to teach your kids to cook, because Kids Cook Real Food is there to help you. You know, in my life, I didn't always do the greatest job teaching my kids to cook either. And it doesn't always go smoothly. I do get frustrated, even though I know all this stuff in my head. But sometimes it works out pretty well. Like last fall, Leah there wanted to make an apple pie at Thanksgiving. Okay, it had always been my job to make the pumpkin pie, which I did, even though it's, you know, sugary stuff, but I could make it way healthier than anybody else, right? Whole wheat crust, lower on the sugar, homemade sweetened condensed milk, the whole shebang. Well, Leah doesn't really love pumpkin pie, so she said, I want to make an apple pie this year, Mom, and I'm going to do it. So I got out my grandma's recipe. Not Busha, but this is my grandma. The kids call her Gigi for great grandma. And I got out her recipe and helped Leah through the steps. But Leah cut all the apples. She rolled out the pie dough. She measured it out. And this is so funny. She said, a cup of sugar? What? She's like, Mom, we don't put sugar in our applesauce. I'm like, no. She said, well, I don't think we need that much sugar in this pie. I'm cutting it in half. So we take her pie up to Thanksgiving. And that's where this picture's from. And by the way, oh my gosh, my Gigi is looking through a cookbook here, even though she no longer lives in her own home. She's in assisted living, but she's still reading cookbooks just for fun. This is kind of the legacy. This is a legacy I have from my grandma and my Busha. But Leah brought the pie, and I was telling people how she had cut the sugar, and Gigi goes, now, Katie, is there still sugar in the pie? Because I like sugar. And I was so impressed, you know, that Leah was able to have that confidence to change her Gigi's recipe and just own it, right? And that's exactly what our Kids Cook Real Food approach is all about. We connect our kids to their food, to their families, and to their history. We build that confidence in doing real tasks and inspire that creativity that she could even, you know, tweak her Gigi's recipe. That's definitely inspired by that feeling of competence, right? That she knew what she was doing. I love it. And I would love to stay and answer your questions as well. Now I get to come back, don't I? There we go. You guys, I'm so sorry about the slide issue. I cannot believe that happened. That's like the saddest thing ever. Okay, I'm here for your questions. And watch your email. First of all, before I answer questions, free knife class at kidscookrealfood.com. Just scroll down a little bit to a little preview and grab that if you're interested. And then I will definitely answer questions, but watch for your $25 gift certificate in your email. We will send that very, very soon. And actually, let me throw it in the chat too. Okay, so there is the discount, the $25 gift certificate. So I have questions that you sent in email before you came here, and then I also have anything that you asked, you know, during the event here. I see Julie was just talking about allergies. With allergies increasing, kids need to be able to cook food that does not come in a packet. I know that's not a question, Julie, but I just got to talk about it a little bit because 1/3 of our members have kids with food allergies or sensitivities. Okay, I know that's more than like the normal average, but it's clear that these parents know that their kids have to learn to cook. If you've got allergies or sensitivities, you have to, because it's not safe for other people to cook for you. And it's way too expensive, like as a college student, to buy all the like fancy allergy friendly food. So we are allergy friendly. I know that wasn't your question, but it's important. Let's see, we've got here from Heather, how long does it take to do the lessons? That's a good question. Each of our levels, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, has 8 videos. And so many people will do those once a week and get through it in like 2 months, but you're at your own pace completely. You have access to everything right away. So it's at your own pace. So you could do 8 months, you know, you could just do it super random. I know a ton of our members are saying like, yes, like I bought this a few months ago or even a year or 2 ago, because life happens. And like this summer, like I'm doing it this summer. So that's awesome. I tell them, put that right in your calendar every time you want to do it, and so that you're less likely to, you know, just skip it, because again, life happens and mom's world is crazy sometimes. So about 8 classes will get you through 1 level. There's 3 levels as your kids grow older. And as far as how long 1 class takes, the videos range from 3 to 20 minutes because the complexity of the skill really varies, again, from little kids to big kids, and that makes sense. So for your preschool kids, I would anticipate about half an hour to 1 hour for them. And then the older kids often will take longer, especially in the second half of their 8 weeks or their 8 classes, because they're making like a whole dinner. Okay, so it might take 2 hours to teach the class, but that's like your dinner time with just a little buffer to teach the kids. That makes sense? So it's not like, oh my gosh, I need 2 hours in my week, I don't have it, because it's your dinner making time. Plus, remember, oh my goodness, once you teach your kids these skills, they will want to practice, and they will begin to save you time on a daily basis in the kitchen, cutting things up and helping you out. Michelle has a long question here. Her issues, she has an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old. That's awesome. And the 11-year-old likes to do stuff in the kitchen. That's so cool. Issues with him are timing. Don't start making brownies when we need to leave the house in an hour and run out of time to clean up. So yeah, that's just that executive function planning skills, right, Michelle? So like our, you know, especially our preteens and even our teenagers are still really building their executive function. So the frontal lobe, the front part of your brain, is the last to develop. Not fully developed till you're 25, which explains a lot about the, you know, 18 to 25-year-old crowd. They're not really grown up yet. So they're working on it. So planning ahead is something that we as parents need to build in our kids, and we're calling it calendar skills for our 14-year-old. It's very hard for him too. But kitchen work actually creates a great venue to do that, to talk about planning ahead. And I am a wonderful example for my kids of failure all the time, because I'm constantly a little bit late on dinner and I'm like, oh, I didn't plan that right, you know? And I probably should talk that out with them a little bit more. I don't always talk it out with them. I'm usually just a good example of failure. But yeah, timing can be really tricky. And then the 7-year-old is a little picky. Yep. So that happens. And Michelle, I do want to just encourage you with that exposure bucket thing, that the more your kids are exposed to different foods in the kitchen without having to eat them, the closer they'll get, the more open they'll get to tasting those foods. So it really is like a picky eating strategy to get your kids in the kitchen and teach them to cook. Melody has a good question here. My kids ages 1 to 14 already do a lot of cooking. Family of 10, I need a lot of help. I just struggle to find time to teach the littles when the older 3 are so capable. Oh, I hear you on that one, Melody. And training them to clean up after themselves. A lot of times I like to use that gift of service style of motivation, so that like the older kids, so either the older kids can help teach the little ones, or the idea can be, if you're intentional about it, if you're like, okay, like Thursday morning if you're a homeschool family, or, you know, Saturday morning if you're a traditionally schooling family, or the summer or whatever, this is going to be like every week I'm going to teach the little kids a new skill while the big kids are cooking, right? So in 2 different ways, the big kids could serve the family by creating some space for the little ones to learn. And I know it's just a struggle. All parenting is a balance and a struggle, but putting your flag in the sand and saying like, I'm going to do this is definitely the first step to getting it done. Ashley says, I'm wary about the knives, but congratulations, Ashley. She's been letting her youngest, age 7, help with potatoes and tomatoes. That's awesome. And then always getting the kids to try new food, including the husband. It's totally a common struggle. And my advice to you, Ashley, is just to keep being consistent. Just keep offering different foods and different flavors, cooked in different ways and different spices. And again, it supercharges the process to get the kids involved because number 1, they have that like ownership, like I made it, so I'm going to try to eat it. And number 2, it's actually like brain science again, when you're working with the food and smelling it and maybe like lick your fingers or whatever, which, you shouldn't do, but it kind of works to kids' advantage. It actually starts to dull your taste buds. So you know how like, when you go out to eat and like the first bite is so good. Like it's so the best, and even like when you're out to eat, most of the meal tastes really good. Whereas when you're at home, it doesn't always taste that good. And I know you probably think it's because like your kids are yelling and crazy or whatever, but it's actually like sensory that just the more you're exposed to something, the more dulled your senses are. Because I mean, think about how much we would overeat if the like 57th bite of steak and egg casserole tasted as good as the first, right? Like, so it's really important actually that our senses get dulled as we go. So when you're cooking, you start that process of dulling your senses in the kitchen, which is bad for you as a cook. It means you'll never enjoy your own cooking as much as everyone else does, but it's really good for our picky eaters or our selective eaters. Our kids whose taste bud, we have more taste buds than we do because taste buds die every year. So if the kids are working in the kitchen, their senses are starting to get dulled, so they're not overwhelmed with such an amount of flavor at the table. They're more likely to try those things and like them. So it's actually like super cool brain science. Kathy. And okay, this is super interesting. They're already members at the VIP level and have almost finished the course. Yay, Kathy, that's awesome. The kids are older now, 9 and 13, and they don't really want to cook, even though they're more than capable. And with sports and work schedules, it's been tough finding time to get them in the kitchen regularly. That is always a struggle. And I do always recommend to just put it in the calendar. Treat it like soccer or karate or dance class or whatever sport, is pulling at you, and really try to put that in the calendar. And sometimes it's like sink or swim. 9 and 13, definitely old enough to make a whole meal. So Kathy, look back at your worksheet at those 5 different types of motivation that we talked about, and think about your kids, 9 and 13, they might be different. You might need different motivating techniques for each of them. But most kids are motivated by competence and by authentic work. So I think, especially with summer coming, I think if you sat down, Kathy, and said, okay, I know you've been busy, but I also know you know how to cook. We did all the work with Kids Cook Real Food. And so every, pick a night, Monday or Monday lunch or whatever, like pick a meal during the week. And I'm hoping that your summer's not like super packed with vacations and sports camps, but it might be. I get that. Still, everybody eats. You find time to make the food, and they can do this. So if you say like, this is it, like the boundary is drawn, the kids are cooking every Friday night, and on Wednesday night, a reminder is going to pop up in my calendar, or if they have their own devices, it can pop up in theirs. We're going to plan it, and then I'm going to step back. Sink or swim. Don't tell them things sink or swim. But like letting them have some failure will vault them into success the next time. Everybody might be hungry for one night, but 9 and 13, they can handle it. If you know how many 2-year-olds, you're okay. So that's definitely what I would say. And now I see that also Dad says it's easier to do everything himself, which is really common. And I mean, that's why like most of our kids aren't getting chores these days, because A, we want to make childhood more comfortable for our kids than it was for us. And B, it's easier and faster to do it yourself. It always is. It's always easier and faster to do it yourself. Okay. But the biggest longitudinal research study ever done has shown that the most successful adults had either a job in high school or chores or both. So if we want successful adults, and hopefully this will convince Dad, we have to give them responsibility, which means we have to be a little bit slower and take a little more time the first couple times, and then we get a little time back, right? Especially at age 9 and 13, like they're definitely old enough to give that back. So yes, Kathy, you can do this. Dairy allergy, special needs, that's okay. It's okay. You can do this. Let them sink or swim and feel a little bit of failure if need be. A couple more questions. Let me check the chat. No other questions in the chat. Here we've got, can I use the class on my homeschool co-op from Jenna? Cool. Thank you for that question. Yes, definitely. My mission is to get as many kids in the kitchen cooking and learning skills as possible. So I did write the terms and conditions so that you can teach any number of kids once you're a member. Okay, so we've got, people invite the cousins and the neighbors over, and the homeschool co-ops and second grade classrooms in California. Some chefs are using our class in Idaho to teach kids. The Utah School for the Deaf and Blind is teaching kids with our class, which is like amazing. I'm not even quite sure how that works, but someday I'm going to go out there and do it with them live. It's going to be super cool. So yes. The short answer is yes, you can teach any number of kids with just one license, including homeschool co-op. So I think we have come to the end of the questions we have, and I don't see any more in the chat. This has been lovely. Thank you for putting up with my slide snafu. I need to figure out what in the world happened before I do this again at 10 o'clock for my West Coast crowd. But I'm Katie Kimball from Kids Cook Real Food. You are warmly invited to join us in class. Use that $25 gift certificate, my gift to you for hanging out with me here today and for saying that parenting's important. By being here, you say that your kids are important, that you want them to eat healthy, build responsibility, and grow up to be healthy, independent adults. And that is awesome. That's something that I want to applaud, so much so that I'll give you a $25 gift card to use at Kids Cook Real Food. I am at the other end of all the emails you get. So if you have any questions or comments, stories about your kids using the knife skills class, hit reply, and you'll get me. And sometimes my team will hop in first, but they are all moms who have done the course, just like Sonia, and they're definitely there for you. So thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.